We've been kind of, in a hurry, and we've been discussing back and forth, and it's a little confusing, so I just want us to get in the right mood, okay? Because we're doing the Via Dolorosa. What's important to remember is that the Via Dolorosa is defined by faith, not by history. Which means that the roads do not necessarily go the same way as they did back then. You're going to end your day in the Garden Tomb, and that is one of the places that may be where Jesus was buried, and also where he was crucified, where the skull heel was. The Via Dolorosa leads you to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where most archaeologists and also historians believe that Jesus actually was crucified and buried and rose from the dead. Most important. Yeah?
Amen.
And so whether it's this way or that way doesn't really matter. What should matter to us is what happened here. Now, the group that was with me yesterday, I explained to you why we believe that this is where it started out. And the reason is because of the Antonia Fortress. Remember this building on the northwestern corner, outside the northwestern corner of the Temple Mount, with the four corners on it? You can actually see if you look at this. Here it's very tiny. They made this very small Antonia Fortress. Why would it have happened in that place, in that particular place? Because that was the Roman headquarters back then. The only place in Jerusalem where it was possible to gather a large group of people would be on the Temple Mount. And this was, the Antonia Fortress was higher up than the walls surrounding the Temple Mount. So it would be possible to put Jesus out on the balcony or on the roof, and the people, like representatives from the entire nation, because they'd come to Jerusalem for the holiday, they would be able to see him, and they could shout what they shouted. Now I also remember that Pilate, the same morning, got a message from his wife. Why did he get a message from his wife? Did they not spend the night together? Did they not have breakfast together? Probably not. Because he would live up at the Jaffa Gate in that area. That's where the palace would be. Okay, the palace where the person in charge, the Roman person in charge, would live. His private residence would be up at the Jaffa Gate. So Pilate's wife probably was up there. She had bad dreams during the night, and she told him, please, not to have anything to do with this man. So what I want to remind you was that Pilate, because Jesus was moved over to Pilate, because the Jewish people did not have the right to judge anyone to death and to execute anyone. This right was taken away from them, from the Romans. So when we say that the Jews killed Jesus, well, that is not exactly true. Because the Romans, the Gentiles, or the Romans representing the Gentiles, have been taken away the right, had taken away the right from the Jews to execute people. But in cases where the Jews thought that it was necessary, they would have to bring the person to the Romans, and he had to go through a Roman trial. Now we have the situation where Jesus comes here. Pilate had this warning from his wife. He didn't want this to happen. So what he does is, he makes Jesus go through the worst kind of treatment that a person probably can go through still being alive. And that's what I want you to have in mind. First, being mocked in Caiaphas' house, then move to the Romans. He does not want to kill him, but he wants him to look so miserable that the people may have mercy upon him and let him go. So when he leaves from Pilate's place, where he was judged, and when he had this cross on his shoulders, he was in a miserable state. He was beaten with something that we call the nine-tailed cat. It's a whip. It's got 9 leather strings connected to it with metal pieces in it, and it goes boom on the back. And of course, whenever it is withdrawn, it takes a part of the body with it back. So Jesus was a tough guy. I mean, this man used to walk from the Galilee all the way down to Jerusalem, spent a lot of time outside walking. He was not stuck in an office, No, not like us. He was out there in the fields. He was out walking. He was fit, in good condition, and he was treated so badly that he, after a few meters, so after some while, he was not capable of carrying the cross. Okay? So whether or not this is the right way, I just wanted us, to remember that, and maybe each and every one just, have that in mind as we walk to do the Via Dolorosa. Sometimes people say, well, it's too noisy, so many people out in the street, and they're busy doing their own things. Well, what do you think Jerusalem was like back in those days? Yeah. Lots of the people in Jerusalem, those who lived here permanently, were waiting for people to come for the holidays so they could make a living, so they could sell souvenirs, so they could sell all kinds of stuff. They had this thing, that is what was important to them. That was part of their income when all these pilgrims would come 3 times a year. So have that in mind, that it may not have been all that different from what it is today. Okay?